if you're a fashion sewer, or you want to be, your dream is probably to sew anything you want. Think it and make it. I know I can, and I have many things. That's what designers do, right? They think it and they make it. I do a lot of my designing in the shower. I think it's because it's just quiet in there, nobody can bother you, and your mind just kind of goes off, and you're washing your hair and you're dreaming. I actually made this design, thought that one up in the shower, and I had a client who was hosting a casino night type party at an automobile museum, the Peterson Museum in Los Angeles, and she had like really killer abs. Like, she worked out and great abs, and I thought, I got to show off the abs, and I want to make it casino-like. So all these cards right here are all embroidered, and I must have been crazy when I thought about doing that. And I think I only had like a week and a half or so to do it. So it was, I could have dreamed that earlier and gave myself more time, but lots of work, and it was so worth it. It was just like such a killer outfit. I also dreamed this one. I remember I actually had it sketched. This was probably about 20 years ago, and I did I just had a simple, black gown with a leopard type fabric coming down and then yellow popping out there. I haven't made this one yet. It's a classic, so one day I will. I just, I don't know, I would kind of just start thinking of other designs and do those. So that one just got passed over, but I did sketch it out pretty good. So, by the way, I'm Chanel, and I'm a fashion designer, costume designer, and now I'm a sewing teacher. I have a sewing school in North Carolina. I've been here about 10 years, and I still work on movies, going back and forth to Los Angeles. And I wanted to pass on my skills, so I opened up a school, and I must have taught thousands of adults and kids to sew. I can't believe it's been so long. I don't know. It was pretty rewarding. If only a quarter of those people are still sewing, then I've done my job, shared my skills, right? So I just had out 3 other videos on kind of helping you to achieve your dreams of learning how to sew and becoming a fashion sewer. Whether you want to be a designer or you just want to design great fashions. I had this blueprint out, because where do you start when you want to learn a new skill? Where do you start? What if you don't have a beginner class in your neighborhood? Going to YouTube, it's kind of everything's all over the place. So I put on there, first it was video 1 was to go over your goals, to decide what you want to make. Look in the pattern books, see what's out there, what's possible. Then looking in your closets and looking at details like, patch pocket, welt pockets, top stitching, different zipper is it an invisible zipper? Is it, lapped over, all top stitched over? Just details. Does it have pom-poms on it? Does it have trims on it? Looking at details, getting really familiar with design possibility. Then I went over, I did a fabric store tour video that was on video 1 for you, and kind of took you through a fabric store. And if you have a fabric store in your town, that's a great place to start. Kind of got to see what the tools are. Then we went over machines, kind of went over what machines that I like. And I've seen my students bring in all kinds of different ones, so we get to play on different ones. Have my favorites. Threading the machine, that's where most everybody gets hung up. And you got to just think of the machine as just a tool. It sews seams, it's not the be-all, end-all. It doesn't do anything for you. Well, it does, yeah. It just sews the seams, right? But it doesn't make the dress or the suit or anything. Threading needles, gave you some tips on that. Hand stitching, seam allowances, gotta know what a seam allowance is, right? Looking at patterns, and then in video 3, I gave you a video on making a simple pillow. It's pretty much where every one of my students starts out, especially the kids. They make a bunch of pillows. Great concepts on it. It's right sides together, pivoting, sewing seams around, clipping the curves, turning it inside out, doing a hand stitching. It's all the basic stuff. Got to start with the basics. Then looking at fitting problems in clothes, and your eye starts to get attuned to where fabrics are rolling. Are they laying on grain? Are they pulling, like my shirt. You know, fabric will tell you where it needs to be fixed. So learning all the basics. I have a lot of students that skip the basics. They think they can learn how to use the sewing machine and then they know how to sew. It doesn't work that way. Sewing is a process, and it is designed around fabric, and also clothes go around your body. They're they're functional. So it's just not learning how to thread the machine and then run a stitch. There's so much more to sewing like that. I took a pottery class a few years ago, and so I really could feel like what my students, I actually took it because I wanted to, but and it was on the wheel pottery, but I really came out of that class with a few little items, but knowing how my students felt, learning something brand new, and something that looks easy. So like people who can do pottery, just, they just work it in with the clay and the wheel, and the wheel is their tool, like the sewing machine is for us. The clay is fabric. That's kind of how that goes. But they make it look so easy, so you get there and you're like, oh, I got this, and no, it didn't work that way. I remember the first, I couldn't even get the whole fundamentals about okay, first you got to work, do something, water and stuff to the clay and knead it and get it primed up. Then you have to have certain shapes that you put on the wheel, and then those shapes become another shape and another shape, and all of it is designed to become a sturdy and art piece, like a functional art piece that's not going to break down when it gets kilned. This is actually what I ended up with, because this was like a really pretty vase or something, I don't know, but it ended up being a cute little Scooby bowl. So my mistake ended up, I think it's cute. It actually looks like my dog Scooby. So Scooby's ears do this, so I actually ended up putting ears on it. You can see all the lumps right here. That was the bowl squishing down, so that's pretty funny. And I gave her a nose like that. So so my little mistake at least I turned it into something. I was about ready to just chunk it like that. So when you're learning how to sew, think about it as enjoying the process, enjoying the basics, and not trying to get to the finish point all the time. Learning you just got to stay in the fundamentals for a while. I think I talked about in one of my videos about a house being built. The foundation first, and all of a sudden, the house is up there like that. One thing we all have in common is we have 24 hours in a day. We all have that. Well, some of us, but and we have choice. Most of us have choice. So we can choose what we want to work on, what we want to get better at, what skills we want to do, and if we really want to focus in on that skill. And then we have 24 hours a day. So if you put if you go, oh, I have soccer, I have cooking class, so I have ballroom dancing, but I want to learn how to sew. And then you have to squeeze it in, kind of thing. But really, I say just, really find the time to focus in and learn some basics, and then you'll be on your way. I also have I'll tell you about it, class. My class I'm starting here is 15 minutes a day. Hope that you put some more time into it, but if you put everyday effort into something, you will grow your skills. I have a student with me in intermediate right now, and she just got out of beginners, and I thought she came in with her daughter. I thought it was just she was coming in with her daughter to learn, but it turned out she wanted to learn. The daughter went on to track and field, and she stayed. But she was in the military, and so I knew she had perseverance, and discipline. Such a great thing. Discipline to learn a new skill. So she would really just go, I'm going to learn this, and she's just on it like that. So she comes out of the basics class, but then she did a little bit of what I was suggesting not to. I was, I don't know, a lot of people buy the wrong pattern size. I tell them pattern size. I think she started working with baby clothes right away, but she picked out this fabric. She started working with fleece, which is actually, it's a pretty easy fabric, but fleece has a lot of stretch to it, and I tell my students not to work with the knits right away, because knits will, they're harder to work with, and because they're harder to cut. This knit's not so bad because it's it's a little bit heavier, but some of the knits are really thin. And I remember she was trying to do a pant that I think it said easy on the pattern envelope, but it had a fly in the zipper. Like the whole zipper was pretty complicated for her, and she had a thinner knit, and made it a little harder. And then she was trying to put a zipper in this fabric, and she actually had a if you cut it one way, it doesn't stretch, and then the other way does stretch. So she was fighting that for just a little baby romper. And then she had this other fabric. I have it dropped right here. She had this other fabric. This is similar to it, but it was a crepey fabric. And this is actually a 4-ply silk charmeuse. It's so beautiful. But some of the fabrics they're too slinky like that, and when you cut it, you think you're cutting it straight, and you actually take off the pattern, and it's like, it's like the cutting's hard to do. Then the fabric just moves around, and it has a mind of its own, and you have to put a lot of pins to control it, that kind of thing. So she was a little bit on the struggle bus for a while there, and then she ended up getting this fabric, which is just a linen, and beautiful. I had actually washed this. I wanted to see if it was going to shrink. This was a scrap of hers, and she found an easy pattern that had some challenges in it, but it was very much easier, and it just turned out beautifully. And this is her in her dress, and it just looks so beautiful on it. And it had some it had a zipper in the back, some gathers, cut out in the front, and we moved the side slit from the side to the side leg, and she's really proud of it. It turned out so good. She also had to put bias tape on it, and it had a lot of little things in it. So that would be one of the first type of projects I like to work on the knit or the wovens first. Get a little success, and then you start moving along. So so she witnessed the success. She's wearing it now, and then she's moving on. So the goal is to stay off the struggle bus. So I've been teaching fashion sewing for over 10 years now, and I've seen a lot. I've learned a lot by teaching. I had no idea I would be learning stuff. Learning better ways to do things. When my students get hang-ups on a machine, like their machine's having trouble, or finding better ways to do things. Just every day is learning. So even after 10 years, still learning new things. I've been asked many times to bring my school to other towns. and I'm like, I just can't do that. I'm even like in Mooresville, and I want to like open up a school in Charlotte, but it'll be a lot of driving back and forth, and it's kind of hard. It's been hard this whole time finding other teachers that have the patience to teach sewing, and then the knowledge. The people that can actually really sew are out there, probably their own fashion business and things like that. So it's been a little bit of a struggle. So I got my class online. It's been the same class I've been teaching for over 10 years, and I got it broken down into 6 modules with a lot of bonuses. The bonuses are all the troubleshooting that I see students having trouble with their machines, like what happens when this happens and that happens, and there's a lot to sewing. It's crazy. But I have a motto. It's called, "Perfect is good, but done is better." And in my school, I have a motto called, I can't think of it right now. Perfect is, well, this is one of them, but can't think of it. Progress, not perfection. That's it. I always said that's perfect thing. So progress, not perfection. My goal is for the students to always just go through stuff. You want them to sew straight lines and stuff, but sewing really accurate lines right away is, great if you can do it, but just as long as you're actually putting things together. I want you to pay attention to the seam allowances, making sure that's right, because if those are off, then your size is different. It's a little bit wavy. The next project, you'll be even straighter. So progress, not perfection. And then perfect is good, but done is better. Not to rush it, but you get too caught up on the whole, being perfect, and you never get it done. So who wants that? Anyway, so we fashion sewers, like the pottery people, make it look easy. Look at the Globetrotter guys. I remember I used to go to them and see them, and they're just with the ball and doing all kinds of things. They didn't just, take a couple classes and learn that. They, worked with the ball and, how it feels on the hands and all that kind of stuff. The guitar players, how they can just, do their tunes. And, when you're seeing that, there's a lot of time and skills behind all that. They say 10,000 hours you put into something, you become a professional. You are a professional on it. So I'm way over 10,000 hours into sewing, so I make it look easy. Those are called the outliers or something like that. There was a book, I remember 10 years ago when I moved to North Carolina, that book was popular, so I still haven't read it. But I knew the concept. So we designers, we can just look, fabric is what we work with. It's like the pottery, making pottery is their clay, so they work with clay. Blah, blah, blah. So fabric, we know how it's going to drape, we know how it's going to press, we know how it's going to feel, how it's going to react to another fabric, how it's is that going to be good for that project, that kind of thing, how it's going to wash, all that. Fabric is our medium. So there's even funny fabrics, that pucker up and are shearing spots, that kind of fabric. And you have, these slinky, this is like a polyester fabric, what it's good for. And then you got your silk charmeuses. And then I like these little cotton prints. Like, what can you do with that? Like corduroys, so they have a nap. Velvets have naps and certain ways to cut it. So you learn that by doing. And you could take a class and learn, okay, this fabric's going to do that, but you have to do it. You have to actually experience and touch and feel and work with the fabric and put pins in it and what needles go into it and all that stuff. So it's like any other skill. You just have to learn all that stuff. If you take a beginner sewing class, I have this for you on the end of the video here. The top 20 things to know from a beginner sewing class. Like what's the selvage of a fabric, needle sizes, what's clipping the curves, grain lines in fabrics, what is a nap, directional nap, pile nap, basting stitch, how are pattern sizes. I also have a lot of videos I put out on called Sew Bits, and trying to teach you little increments at a time. In my class, my motto is 15, it's not really my motto, but my goal with you is 15 minutes a day. If you just put in everyday effort, start learning a new skill like that. I have in our class, it's down to 6 modules. So we have, I've got my table of contents here, and we start with the basics, learning the tools, right? Got to learn what the tools are. The machine, this sewing machine right here, is simply a tool. Learning how to operate it. And they haven't made the machine yet that you push the button and say, I want that. I want a gown, or even it made parts of it. So I know in the factories they do have some like pocket machines that will make welt pockets and things like that. I didn't think that would ever exist. So one day that machine will be here. Not in my lifetime, but could be. Then our week 2, we actually go into projects. I actually guide you through, sometimes we just do simple projects, and they're all designed to show you like pivoting and clipping the curves and doing the seam allowances and pinning stuff, and simple little projects that we work on along the way. We actually even do circles. So I used to just do a plain circle, and then we turn them into emoji pillows. The kids, the adults sometimes, the adults like them too. But this is how it could go wrong. It looks like a kidney. So circles are sewing on different grains of fabric, because there's in a fabric there's the length grain, the cross grain, and the bias grain. And then when a circle, you're actually going to be sewing through all of them. So it's just like shifts around. So you got to get used to all that. Then we do, as we go through pressing, go through a lot of pressing is really important. You have to be at the press table of almost every part, because that actually sets you up to sew it successfully. So if you just roll things through the sewing machines, you get a lot of curves and bubbles in your fabrics and that kind of stuff. And then we go over a lot of fabrics and what the grain lines are. Real important. It's probably one of the most important things for a fashion designer is how the fabric hangs and things like that. But fabrics too, you have to just really be working with them to get to know them. We also go over patterns, a little bit about what to look for in patterns and what all the back of it means. There's a lot of like yardages, like what does 45 and 60 inch mean, fabric widths. Also really go over what the sizing of buying the right pattern size. And then we go into design and wearing ease, how to measure, prepping the fabric, cutting out the fabric. We end up making a skirt like this, just an easy elastic A-line skirt that is designed for certain basic skills like making a casing, doing the pressing work, stitching close to the edge, the seam allowance again, and hemming. So that's on this skirt's a basic hem, and through there you can jean hems kind of thing. This is actually an added pocket that we just did in our one of our classes, had some extra time. And then we from there we go into all the bonuses that taking you through like what happens when the machine does this or that. And then also in my class I have an added bonus with another skirt pattern. Also the class includes all the patterns and the written instructions and the video instructions on how to do all that. And then I included another pattern, so after you finish that skirt pattern, you can do another type. And we actually start with skirts because that's probably one of the easiest things for a garment to make. A lot of people think tops are going to be easier, but they're not. A lot of them have collars and plackets and buttons and some stand-up collar and then a set-in sleeve. You got a curved shape going into an arm's eye shape, and you got cuffs, and even if it's a t-shirt, then you got that neckband in here. And working with knits is not the best thing for the beginner. So that is when I design all these projects here, because whenever we go into the next project, I go, remember we did that when we did the bow, remember we did that when we did the circle, remember we did that, and then you go, oh yeah. So each project is designed to kind of comprehend that that skill that I want you to learn on that day. So that is a little bit about the class. So if you want to stay off the struggle bus or not even get on, my class opens today. And it includes all those bonuses, all the modules, and all the patterns you need, and step-by-step instructions to get you through projects so that you'll be on your way to your own fashion designing in the shower. So you can think of what you want and make it happen. The goal is to put in the work, to do at least 15 minutes a day, and to learn to sew. If you really want it, you'll put the work in. So the class is at $197, but I have for the next 5 days, I have an introduction rate, 20% off promo. It becomes $157, and you just put in the coupon code intro promo, and I put it down below here so you can see that, and you can get started. We'll be starting with class number 1 and guide you through it. Try and do 15 minutes a day. If you're having a bad day, do 30 minutes the next day, that kind of thing. Don't have too many bad days. And we'll get you started in sewing. So there's a link below that you'll just click. It will take you to my online Teachable school. It's called Teachable. And I have all these classes here. You're going to look for this class here, although my link might take you right to there, but if not, you'll see all these classes here, and it's called Future Fashion Designers Fashion Sewing. And you just sign up there. You sign up as a member of our school. It doesn't cost you anything. In fact, most of these classes are all free, and get started on sewing. So you'll see also, look on my website, you can go back and see all these videos, the past videos, and you'll go to the Fashion Online Sewing class, and you'll see this sketch where this young lady wanted to be over here, so she had to climb the ladder to learn all these skills, and there you go. That's how things happen. So the first 10 that sign up too will have a 30-minute consultation with me too, with any questions that you have. And also, if you need to email me, I'm at Chanel at Future Fashion Designers. I'll put put the link in below there, and I'll see you in class.